So let's say you got this far, right? You just replaced your condenser. So what we're going to need a set of gauges, a vacuum pump, and then of course your refrigerant. You always want to check on your vehicle to see what type of refrigerant it uses. So I know for me, I need 1.88 pounds. If you happen to have burned out a compressor, or you know for a fact that something went bad, your filter dryer, all those things, you would need to flush the air conditioning system. In this case, I just replaced the AC condenser, so I'm not going to do a flush. Up to you. You do whatever you want with your own car. But I'm going to go ahead and get these gauges connected. And a quick trick to remember is the suction side is always going to be the fatter one, and your discharge line is always going to be the thinner one. So there's a bunch of different ways to remember that. I've got a couple rhymes. So suck it till you're blue, and if you've got a little one, she's going to laugh and you're going to turn red. So you'll know that this is your discharge side or your red side or your high side, depending on how you read it. So low side, high side. Get your gauges connected and get ready to go. Since these are AutoZone gauges and not my own, the first thing that you're going to want to do is just make sure everything is nice and tight. And on these, they have little valves on the outside too. So counterclockwise to open, and then close righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, all that good stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and connect the high side, which is going to be right here. And then the low side, suction side, is going to be right back there. Whoop, back there. So go ahead and get those connected, and then I'll show you guys what to do next. Now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and just open up these ports, the valves themselves. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey once again. And that should be open. And then same thing with the low side. Go ahead and give that a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And then now, make sure we got 0 on the gauges, so that's that. Next step is going to be to connect this yellow service hose to our vacuum pump. And we're just going to connect everything up. And you'll see on the vacuum pump that it comes with oil. Let me move this out of the way. So it comes with oil. So you want to check to make sure that in this front, it actually has some oil. So this one's low. Most of the oil is inside of this. So the only thing with using tools that aren't your own is you never know the quality of them. So what we'll do is, in here is where you would fill your oil. And we'll go ahead and do that. Get some oil in there. And then we'll get our connections hooked up and get a extension cord out here and get ready to go. So now vacuum pump is connected. There's a little switch on the back of these guys right there. And you just go ahead and connect your service port right there. Make sure your oil is good. Like I said, I just topped mine off. And you're supposed to do an oil change after every single time you use these things. Rumor has it, but you do as you please. Then you're going to go ahead and just make sure all your fittings are nice and snug and connected. Nothing is wiggling too loose. Got your gauges nice and open. So those are ready to be serviced and vacuumed. And then on the gauges, the only thing, like I said earlier, is these aren't mine. So this one says 0 all the way. This one's a little bit off from 0 right there. So it's not quite all the way empty. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go ahead and just kick this on. And then you're going to go ahead and open up these ports right here. And you're going to try to get this down into a vacuum all the way to the lowest that it possibly can go, right there in the bottom green, if this thing would focus. So right down here, you're going for the -30. And once you get it to that, you're going to let it sit there for about 15-20 minutes. So just like that, you guys can see what I did there. But you'll see how fast this pulls down, and that's a good sign. So this is what we're mostly worried about though on this left gauge, because it'll show a little bit, but we're just letting this vacuum pump run for a little while and hope that it holds a vacuum. So I'll be back with you guys shortly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close these two gauges right here, then quickly turn off the vacuum pump. So I'm just going to give this a turn. Those are off. Switch this off. And we're just going to hope that this holds. So right now I am at -23, -24. So I'm just going to let that sit for about an hour. And we'll see what it does after that. I ended up leaving this overnight. So you can see, held a vacuum. That didn't even budge a little bit. So that's awesome. Same here on the high side. So the good thing is that tells me that my air conditioning system is airtight. So that's a good thing. Alright, so for this next part, what we're going to do is we're going to start charging this. I'm going to try to make this as quick and easy as I possibly can without going into all the technical details. Once I get the car up and running, you're not going to want to run your air conditioning system with no refrigerant at all. To make everything simple, I'm going to charge by weight. So this is 1.88 pounds. So I've got 3 cans of these. and each can was about 25-30 bucks or something like that. No, it was less than that. Either way, so I got 3 cans of these, and then you're gonna need this little special tap if you're gonna use these for this gauge, or you could, if you wanted to, use the little AC Pro little squeeze nozzles. One of these guys right here. So you could use this if you wanted to, but the only problem with this is I want to keep the vacuum on the system. So right now a vacuum means that it's going to pull in some of this refrigerant. So what my goal is to see if I can pull in as much of this can as I can, so that way as I can. So when I start the car, the air conditioning system has some sort of refrigerant to get going, and then once it's going, I'll be able to charge it using the gauges to get the rest of it in there. And once the compressor kicks on, it should pull in the rest of what I need, or at least pretty dang close. That's my goal, at least. This should be interesting. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and connect this. This was only about $8, but there's a lot of other methods to connect this, or use different gauges or whatever. You can get R134A in the big cans that go with traditional gauges, but I just figured this for $8 is a lot easier. And overall, I mean, I'm only saving a little bit of money. Again, you can take this to a shop and have them do this for $200 is the market price, but I'd rather just have these tools and, you know, be able to do it myself. You're going to want to make sure you have your eye protection on and gloves, because you are handling refrigerant. So this screws in, and as this screws in, it's going to, once this screws in, it's going to pierce the can. You hear that refrigerant start to go, so you know that it's pierced. That's because what we have to do next is we have to purge our line. So I'm going to go ahead and open the service port just a little bit and get some refrigerant flowing through this. That'll push any air out of the lines. And so from here, now what I can do is I'm going to lose my vacuum, but I'm going to go ahead and open up the system, and I'm going to keep a weight on my can here. So I'm going to go grab a scale, and I'm just going to watch this refrigerant leave my can. So now all I'm going to do, like I said, I've purged that line. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I'm going to lose my vacuum. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing to max AC. As I was saying earlier, this one didn't kick on initially because I'm assuming this is equipped with a low pressure sensor that will protect the compressor in the event there's no refrigerant. So what I ended up having to do was using one of these little squeeze gauges to go ahead and add some pressure to the system. You only need a little bit. So once the compressor kicked on, I was able to switch back over to the gauges, and the compressor is able to pull from the cans. But in this case, I ended up just sticking with the cans in the long run, and I just went ahead and did this manually, just kept squeezing and charging, squeezing and charging. So this is the easier way to do it when you're not able to get enough compressor pressure to pull from those cans using just the traditional gauges. Alright, so what I ended up having to do was use one of these bottles to get a little bit of spray in there. So I used this nozzle for the cans, which you guys can use this for all of it, but I just like to just use that to get it started. Make sure that your clutch is engaged and your compressor is spinning. So once that's good, I connected up the regular can again. So like I said, connect your fittings, crank this down, it'll seat, it'll pierce, refrigerant comes through, give it a little purge. Then go ahead and just slowly start adding. So you're going to just open up a little at a time, add some on the low side. Just going to close it, let it keep going, let it run. And since this is 1.88 pounds and this is only 12 ounces right here, I know that I'm going to need a couple of cans to get it to the right charge. So right now I'm just going by weight. That was taking too long, so we're going with this. A couple shakes. A little spray at a time, and I'm just going to use the little nozzle. I just want to add something. If you're going to try to charge this at night like I am, where it's kind of pretty cool out here, it's not going to charge as fast, so it's going to take forever using that little squeezy nozzle. And plus you want to do it really slow. You want to do this ideally when the temperatures are above 75 degrees. 80 is even nicer, but for now this is what we can do. So we're just going to do it nice and slow, and it might just take a couple days to get the charge right. But don't trust the gauge on that. Just go by weight, and if anything, get yourself a set of gauges from AutoZone, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly's, whatever. See if they have those gauges, because once we do this, we'll confirm and we'll make sure that using a PT chart we can make sure everything is charged up. But ideally, if we charge by weight, we should have it perfect. Even though we're charging by weight, what I'm going to do is look at this gauge and look for the 30 to 40 degrees right there. You guys can see that. The goal is always about a 40-degree coil, rule of thumb. I don't know what's going on with my high side gauges. I'm pretty sure these gauges are bunk, but whatever. So we're going to go for 40 degrees. So at this point, it is time to put the bumper on. I've got all the plastic pieces, all the trim pieces back on. And yeah, let's do it. So if you made it this far, consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you learned something or decided that you don't want to do this or that you did this and it's a success, let me know.